Hello guys. I recently viewed my analytics and found that people are watching my video but not subscribing my channel. Please subscribe my channel so that I can feed my cat. Hello guys. Today, I am going to show you an American supernatural horror film from 2015 entitled The Lazarus Effect. Warning: this is a spoiler content. So, watch out and take care. We see video footage of a dead pig lying on an operating table. A team of medical researchers are performing an experiment to bring it back to life. They inject it with a serum and hit the switch to their machine, but nothing happens. One researcher jokes about eating the pig, and then the pig starts to squeal briefly before staying dead. The team works at a university in Berkeley, California. One of the scientists, Zoe McConnell, guides a student, Eva, to the lab so that she can record the team's experiments and research. Zoe introduces Eva to her co-workers Nico, Clay, and Zoe's fiancé and the head of the project, Frank Walton. In the documentary, Frank explains that they managed to extract serum codenamed Lazarus by bonding B-cell tumors, speeding up nerve fiber regrowth. They then electrocute the serum to be activated and start neural activation by inserting the serum into the brain's temporal lobe and charging it with the right amount of energy, which is enough to trigger the serum and hope for the best results. Frank further explains that they developed the serum to help coma patients retain neural activity and is now used to bring the dead back to life. While Clay is fascinated with Eva, Nico seems smitten with Zoe as he looks at her, while Clay asks him what she thinks about the student. Meanwhile, Zoe plays a piece of classical music as she prepares for their test experiment. The music stops, and a silhouette appears behind her. She looks around to check what's going on, and when she turns back, a man behind a pig mask appears. It is only Nico fooling around, trying to ease the tension as he notices her so bothered about the work. While they share the food that Nico has brought, Nico asks her about how things are between her and Frank. Zoe discloses that it's almost 3 years since they got engaged, but they had to put the wedding off since the university granted them to do research, and Frank seems to be serious about work. However, Nico tells her that maybe the universe is telling her something, which she dismisses, saying that the universe is telling her to finish their research soon instead. That night, Zoe has a nightmare about a burning apartment building, and she seems trapped inside it. A pair of burned hands protrude from beneath a door, while the dolls are flaming. With a gasp, Zoe awakens and grabs her sacred necklace. Frank enters the room to console her for a while, then heads to bed. The following day, the researchers discuss how they would improve the last experiment, which was almost a success. The previous experiment seems to burn the temporal brain after exposing a large voltage as an activator. Clay introduces the idea of putting a bioinsulator around the serum, delaying the activation so that the brain won't fry up. To test his hypothesis, they operate an experiment on Rocky, a deceased blind dog. They inject the serum into the test subject, but nothing appears to happen at first. They then adjust to a higher voltage, still nothing. However, Eva notices that Rocky twitches his ears upon watching through her camera. They do not believe her and say that it is due to muscle stimulation only. Nico examines Rocky and announces that seemingly nothing happened, then suddenly, Rocky begins to bark and move around. Everyone panics but still manages to calm Rocky down, and Zoe notices that its cataract is gone. Frank warns everyone not to disclose anything outside the lab. Meanwhile, they then celebrate their success with a bottle of champagne. Later that day, Frank and Zoe take Rocky to their home. They observe that he looks sad and he doesn't want to eat his food. Zoe seems to worry about Rocky, that may be something about their experiment, when strong as her guilt clouds her mind, and she even questions their research. Frank assures her that they will help many people if the study succeeds. Frank continues to work while his fiancée heads to bed. That evening, while Zoe is sleeping alone in their bed, the door slowly opens and Rocky appears on the bed, approaching and watching her sleep. The next day, back inside the laboratory, the student tries to play with Rocky. Still, he seems uninterested and antisocial. They put Rocky under a CT scan to further examine his brain. It turns out that the results show the same symptom of hyperthyroidism, which is an aggressive personality. Although the serum should have dissipated within hours, the team discovers that it is still in Rocky's brain. Clay is left alone in the lab with Rocky while he sits in his cage. He turns away from the dog for a brief moment and he hears a crash. Clay goes to find the fridge opened and food spread out everywhere. He then sees Rocky growling viciously at him. When the teen comes back, Clay mentions what he saw, but nobody seems to believe him. The dean of the university calls Frank in to chastise him for the underground experiments, unhappy that he and the team are trying to play God. Frank learns that someone has been giving the dean footage of the experiments that show them testing the serum on animals. The shareholders later show up at the lab and confiscate every bit of equipment and research that the team has after they are told that a major pharmaceutical corporation bought out the company that was funding the project. Zoe accuses Eva of being the one that told the dean, since this happened after she showed up. Using a security pass that Eva kept, the team sneaks back into the lab at night to recreate the experiment. Nico hacks into the security system to buy them time. The team gets another dead dog and gets it prepped for another test. Zoe flips the switch and she is electrocuted. Frank rushes to her side and feels that she has no pulse. Nico hands him an adrenaline needle that he sticks in Zoe's chest, but she remains unresponsive. Clay brings over the defibrillators, which also doesn't work. Zoe is dead. Frank then sees that she had her engagement ring on her finger, which caused the electrocution. Not ready to let her go, Frank puts Zoe's body on the table. Clay, Nico, and Eva all argue that this is wrong since they know Frank is gonna try the serum out on a human being. Accepting whatever consequences are in store for him, Frank goes ahead with the test. He injects Zoe with the serum. She is still unresponsive. Nico then sees that the security guard is headed their way. They hide from him until he leaves, at which point the team sees Zoe sitting up on the table. Frank goes over to her and checks for anything unusual. Zoe grabs his wrist and asks if she just died. She then appears to be able to hear everyone's thoughts. That night, Frank comforts her and tends to Zoe's wound in her head, while the rest of the team watches her, still shocked that she came back to life. The student asks her what she remembers when she died. However, Frank tells her that Zoe needs to rest. When the guard finally goes home, they observe Zoe by scanning her brain under the CT scan. It turns out that it has a lot of neural activity happening inside her brain. Feeling overwhelmed by scientific explanations, the student asks Nico what is going on. Nico then explains that Zoe's CT scan results show that more than 10% of her brain is active when ideally, only 10% of the human brain works. He seems worried since not many studies support what will happen if 90% of the human brain is activated. At the same time, Frank continues to comfort Zoe. He assures her that everything will be all right and she must trust him. Frank then shows her the necklace and inserts the ring on it. While he puts the jewelry around her neck, Zoe seems to hear his thoughts saying something's wrong with her. When Frank explains what she might be experiencing, Zoe continues what he's about to say, making him uncomfortable and frightened. Frank then heads out of the room to inform others, while Zoe is left alone in the room, confused about how she can hear his thoughts and even controls the pen on the table. When Zoe tries to concentrate, she appears to listen to what everyone else is thinking. At home, Zoe notices her fingertips look darkened, as well as the spot where Frank injected her. She tells him that she feels there is something wrong with her. She says that she felt herself in the burning apartment building, but she couldn't get herself out. Frank dismisses it as just a bad dream, like the ones she always has. The team returns to the lab with Zoe. She is left alone with Eva, while the guys step out. Eva leaves Zoe to sleep. She walks out and finds herself in the same burning building. Eva sees a little girl standing in the hallway holding something in her hand. The little girl runs away, and Eva sees the burning hands reaching out. A burning hand then grabs her wrist, and she wakes up screaming as the guys find her. She tells them what she saw and that she also has a visible burn on her wrist. Frank explains that Zoe had a traumatic childhood experience in which she was trapped in the burning building and that she saw her neighbors sticking their fingers out, unable to escape. Eva suggests that Zoe saw something when she died and that maybe her soul is trapped. Nico is alone in the room on his computer when he's startled by Zoe. She begs him to help her figure out what's wrong with her, attempting to manipulate him with a kiss. He rejects it, knowing it's wrong. The lights go out and Zoe disappears. Through a security camera, it's seen that Nico is pulled into a closet. Zoe reemerges and telekinetically crushes the closet with Nico inside, killing him. Frank, Eva, and Claire return, demanding to know where Nico is. Zoe appears calm and doesn't tell them anything. Clay tries to call for help, but the power goes out, taking out the emergency lines as well. He yells at Zoe for her to tell them where Nico is, and she uses her powers to choke Clay with his e-cigarette. Frank and Eva try to save him, but it's too late. They are horrified when they pull the e-cig out of his mouth. The lights turn off, and Zoe vanishes once more. When the lights turn on, they see Zoe summoning the equipment into the air and throwing them into Frank and Eva. A little while later, the two realize something is seriously wrong and attempt to hinder Zoe with a syringe. Frank advises the student to inject the needle, no matter what happens. He heads out and discovers Zoe sobbing in the hallway. Frank approaches her, telling her that she's still the Zoe he adores. However, she can read his mind and deduces that he doesn't believe she's the same. Zoe grabs his head and squeezes it until his neck snaps. Eva flees after seeing this. Zoe then grabs the rest of the serum and injects herself with all of it. The lights continue to go out, leaving Eva in the dark with Zoe. Eva appears to get thrown into the burning building again. She encounters the little girl, whom Eva realizes is Zoe. Little Zoe hands Eva a book of matches, revealing that it was she that started the fire. Eva tells her that it wasn't her fault and that she can fix this. Evil Zoe then comes in with her skin burning and her eyes blackened. Little Zoe goes to open the neighbor's door as Evil Zoe comes closer. Little Zoe opens the door and a blinding white light flashes before their eyes. Eva sticks Zoe with the syringe. Zoe apologizes for what she's done and she collapses. Eva slumps over as sirens are heard. A fireman runs in with a response team. He goes to Eva and comforts her. Eva then sees that Zoe's body is gone. She looks at the fireman, which is really Zoe. She then breaks Eva's neck. Zoe lines up the bodies of Clay, Nico, and Eva next to each other. She puts Frank's body on the table and injects him with the serum from her body. Frank then comes back to life with a gasp. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked this video. Subscribe my channel to never miss out any video.